Engaged to a stranger, but his incredible love revealed a hidden treasure in her heart. Emily Carson stood at the edge of Maplewood's quaint town square, her mind spinning like the autumn leaves swirling around her. Just weeks ago, she was a dedicated community college professor, burdened by unrelenting student loans and the weight of her family's expectations. Now, she wore an engagement ring on her finger, given to her by someone she barely knew. Mark Thompson's warm brown eyes had drawn her in, but what remained was a tangled knot of fear and longing. The very school where she thrived had become a dull backdrop in her life, overshadowed by a romance that both excited and terrified her. Her heart hammered, struggling to reconcile the seeming joy of their engagement with the gnawing anxiety that clawed at her every thought. Was marrying him a real escape or just a desperate grasp for stability? Emily had spent sleepless nights crafting lessons that ignited passion, yet here she was, doubting her own choices. The inexorable clash of dreams and desire roiled within her. This engagement was a beacon, but to what? "What am I doing?" she whispered to herself, the denial coating her voice like bitter ash. With every day, the walls of Maplewood rattled with judgments about their different backgrounds. Even as she reveled in Mark's affection, nagging whispers crept into her mind, questioning her worth. Her colleagues, praised for their academic achievements, echoed through the echo chamber of her insecurities. With a sudden urge to break free, she gripped Mark's hand tightly, feeling the warm texture of his calloused palm beneath hers. It felt good, grounding. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The cozy aura of their burgeoning love began to dim one evening when Mark took her to the ranch he had inherited. She felt the weight of its decaying charm but saw hope in its battered walls. This place held a mystery, a promise of love and escape, yet reality niggled at her. What hidden layers lay beneath? As he spoke of burdens and memories etched in the faded wood, her heart raced at the thought of more shadows emerging. Emily grappled with the revelation that not only was she trying to mend her own frayed aspirations, but now she was becoming entwined with someone else's haunted past. The ranch became a metaphor for her life piled high with unaddressed thoughts and ruins of what could be. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, a gust of wind urging her to leap. Could she abandon her dreams, rip apart the identity she had carefully constructed over years? Torn between her academic ambition and the allure of the life Mark offered, Emily felt like a ship caught between two storms, both threatening to tear her apart. With mounting dread, she confronted the reality that their love could crumble under the weight of discovery. The very foundation on which they stood was at risk, threatening to engulf her ambition and identity. With her heart racing, Emily knew one monumental decision loomed ahead, but uncertainty swirled around her like fog. Would she remain the professor, tethered to her fading dreams, or plunge into a world unknown with a man who had revealed so little of himself? The tension crackled in the autumn air, and as night fell, so did clarity become more elusive, leaving her to confront the jarring dissonance of her choice. The next morning, Emily awoke to the dirt-streaked sunlight spilling across the worn wooden floor of the ranch. She turned to find Mark still asleep, his face relaxed and peaceful, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling inside her. The ring glimmered on her finger, a constant reminder of her hastily made choice. She wished she could reach into her mind, find the clarity she sought, and pull it out like a tangible thing, but all she felt was weight heavy and unyielding. With a determined sigh, she slipped out of bed, mindful not to disturb him, and ventured outside. The brisk morning air bit at her skin, awakening a myriad of thoughts. The tranquil landscape was at odds with her internal chaos. The golden fields were beautiful, yet they felt suffocating, a reminder of the dreams she was wrestling with. As she walked along a narrow path, her mind wandered back to her classroom, the students who looked up to her, and the vibrant discussions that filled her days. That was her world, a world of ideas, exploration, and connection. But now, here she was, entangled in a narrative she hadn't authored. She found it harder to justify the sacrifice of those aspirations in the face of a future that felt as uncertain as the fog rolling across the fields. Then a thought struck her. It wasn't really the engagement that filled her with uncertainty, it was the fear of herself. What if stepping into Mark's world gave her the chance to grow in ways she couldn't imagine? She realized she was on the precipice of a personal revolution. To fully embrace this new life, she needed not only to understand Mark better but also to confront the woman she had become. When Mark joined her outside, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, she took a breath. Seeing him there, blending into the beauty of the ranch, she felt a flickering spark of resolution spark inside her. "We need to talk," she said, keeping her tone firm yet gentle, as if she were addressing her students. His brow furrowed slightly, a quiet anticipation hanging in the air. The conversation she had planned had morphed into something much deeper than mundane small talk. It was a confrontation. Did she really know who he was? Did he understand her? The moments ticked by in silence as they sipped their coffee. The garden around them buzzed with the sounds of the day awakening, a vibrant contrast to the weight encasing her heart. She had loved the thrill of inspiration, but now she was faced with an insistent reality that whispered, "Dare to explore." "Mark, what is your history with this place?" she finally inquired, her voice steady. "You seem so connected to it." The question was more than just a query, it was a hopeful overture into unknown territory. She could sense the gravity of their conversation hovering just above them as if daring both to take a leap. He hesitated, those brown eyes searching hers, and suddenly her pulse quickened. What truths lay beneath his calm demeanor? Was this ranch merely a reflection of his losses? As he began to share tales of laughter and tears during his childhood, each story peeled back another layer, revealing the burdens he carried with him. In that moment, Emily understood that opening this door was also opening herself. It wasn't only about interrogating Mark, it was about confronting the fear of what she could lose, the identity she had grown accustomed to. With every revelation, she felt a stirring curiosity begin to wrestle with her trepidation. "Are you ready for our future?" Mark asked, his tone earnest, oblivious to the tumblings of her internal struggle. The question hung like a ghost between them, catalyzing fears and aspirations that she needed to face. Emily's heart raced, the weight of the day pressing down on her. She wasn't just engaging with Mark's past, she was forced to confront where she fit in next. Would the choices she made now determine who she would become, and would she be willing to embrace the unknown that lay ahead? She felt the familiar tug of anxiety, yet another part of her yearned for the explorable adventure before her. "Mark, what if?" she began, her voice faltering as the enormity of her realization dawned on her. The fork in her path was looming actively, and she had to act now, setting the course for herself. What could she uncover about herself as they ventured further into this tapestry of life intertwined with love? The question loomed larger than any decision she had ever faced and was the pivot on which her journey now balanced. Emily took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts like a tightly coiled spring ready to unfurl. The weight of anticipation pressed upon her, and the quiet stillness of the ranch was both a comfort and a source of agitation. She was at a crossroads, the future stretching before her as a vast, uncharted territory. "Mark, what if we tried to redefine our expectations?" she ventured, pushing those words out into the silence. They felt bold yet vulnerable. What if we focused on what we want as individuals, instead of just as a couple? As the words settled in the air, Mark's expression morphed, confusion skimming across his brow. "What do you mean?" he asked, searching her gaze for answers she struggled to articulate. She had hoped he would seize this thread, adding his own color to the fabric of their conversation. Instead, she felt a momentary flash of fear. Had she struck a nerve? "I mean, I want to understand who we are beyond the titles we wear," she explained, feeling the momentum of her thoughts surge. "What passions lie dormant inside us? What dreams have we shelved?" The questions tumbled forth, each one weighing heavily as if they carried the potential for revelation. Mark studied her, his gaze piercing through the swarm of hope and worry swirling inside her. "I see this ranch as our future," he said, his voice steady but edged with uncertainty. "It's a safe place, Emily. We could build a life here." She nodded slowly, acknowledging his perspective but feeling a resistance within herself. But what if safety becomes stagnation? The words hung, raw and real between them. What if I lose sight of my purpose? Being tied down to routines I didn't choose. And what if those routines are part of building something beautiful? His voice sounded earnest, but deep inside, Emily sensed the tension simmering. How could they find a shared vision when their paths seemed to diverge so sharply? The imagined landscape of her classroom returned to her, a vibrant chaos of learning, inspiration, and challenge. "I love teaching," she said softly, conscious of the longing that filled the spaces between them. "I want to inspire others and myself. I don't want to become someone who just adapts to what's in front of her." Silence enveloped them once more, the only sounds being the rustling leaves and distant calls of birds. Emily realized the depth of what lay ahead of her. It was more than a discussion about their relationship, it was a dialogue about her emerging identity. "What if we each spent some time pursuing our individual passions?" she suggested, emboldened by her conviction. "Maybe we can help each other nurture our dreams." A flicker of hope ignited in her chest. "Just imagine if I could teach here on the ranch, or if you could show me how to connect with the land and its history." Mark looked away, his expression contemplative. "That sounds risky," he finally replied, every word tinged with hesitation. "What if we both fail?" She felt that familiar tug of anxiety swell within her, yet now layered with determination. "But what if we succeed?" she countered. "What if this turns out to be the greatest journey of our lives?" His eyes met hers, a mixture of intrigue and uncertainty reflected back at her. The potential for a future filled with self-discovery was intoxicating and terrifying. Could they each embrace the vastness of their aspirations while grounded in their commitment to one another? The swirling thoughts in her mind ignited a fierce resolve within. She could feel the gears of change shifting in the depths of her being. A new chapter in her life demanded more than simply adjusting to the familiar, it required iteration, exploration, and even the embrace of failure. "Are you willing to breathe life into our dreams, Mark?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper but charged with fervor. The blue sky stretched above them, a blank canvas for the possibilities ahead. Would they reshape the narrative together, or would the chasm of uncertainty swallow them whole? As she awaited his response, a thrilling mixture of risk and potential thrummed through her veins. "Emily," he began, uncertainty weaving his words, and in that moment, she could feel the pendulum of their shared future swinging softly, waiting for its next push. Would she find the courage to step into the unknown, inviting both growth and vulnerability in her pursuit of her dreams? The next sentence he uttered could change everything, but nothing concerning their journey would ever be the same. Emily held her breath, the world narrowing to the singular point of Mark's unfolding response. The beating pulse of the moment hummed in her ears as uncertainty crackled in the space between them. She felt the weight of anticipation transform into something heavier as he finally spoke. "I think we need to make a plan," he said, his voice steadier, but still tinged with caution. "Maybe we can start small. I can dedicate weekends to helping you set up some classes here. We could invite local kids to learn about farming and the land. It'd be a way to connect with the community and still explore your passion for teaching." Emily's heart quickened. Hope stirred just beneath the surface, a tentative bridge spanning the chasm between safety and ambition. "That sounds wonderful," she breathed, a smile illuminating her face. "We could create a curriculum together. We can teach them about the ecosystem, the importance of sustainability, or even the history of the ranch." There was a freshness in the air, a prospect of collaboration that ignited something dormant within her. Yet, shadows of doubt flickered at the edge of this newfound enthusiasm. Would they truly forge a path that allowed both of them to grow, or would her yearning for independence spark further conflict? Mark's eyes brightened, signaling a shift. All right, let us hash out a timeline. We can each invest our weekends into what this could be, he suggested. The momentum sparked a thrill within Emily as she sensed her vision taking shape, grounded by their promises to each other. Yet, beneath it all, there was also trepidation. What if her aspirations expanded beyond the ranch, beyond the confines of their plans? "I'd love that," she replied, the stirrings of ambition mingling with the threat of vulnerability. "I can also start researching resources. Maybe there are grants available for educational programming like this." Mark nodded, but as excitement fluttered in Emily's heart, the nagging voice of hesitation echoed in her mind. What if her drive for personal growth clashed with their shared reality? What if this collaboration turned into a bind? The fear felt palpable, almost suffocating, and she inhaled deeply to calm her racing thoughts. The soft rustling of leaves surrounded them, grounding her momentarily in the present. She needed to remind herself that every commitment they made could be a renegotiation of their futures. It wasn't only about staying safe, it was about shaping a home for hopes too long buried. They spent the next hour diagramming ideas, chalking out plans against the backdrop of the azure sky. The excitement of building something new together infused Emily with purpose. She began to see the ranch as not just a static life, but instead, a canvas alive with possibilities. Yet even with the energy buzzing between them, doubt still wormed its way into her thoughts. As they discussed potential teaching topics, she noticed Mark occasionally retreating into the practicality of ranching, a tension in his brow hinting that he wasn't entirely sold on their new direction. She worried about where their visions diverged. He found solace in stability, while she craved exploration, evolution, and self-discovery. Days turned into weeks, and their weekends filled with fruitful brainstorming sessions. However, as the program started to take shape, Emily could feel the pressure mounting. The glimmers of excitement occasionally dulled by the weight of expectation. What if they opened the floodgates to their dreams and failed to control the current? The internal battle of strategy versus passion gnawed at her, urging her to confront the fragile balance between personal ambition and shared commitment. The night before their first class, Emily sat alone in her room, staring at the planner filled with to-do lists, colored pens, and crossed-out reminders. Would her aspirations breathe life into the ranch or suffocate it? With every crossed-off task, her heart raced at the thought of stepping forward but quaked with hesitation over the next great leap into the unknown. The early dawn. Light streamed through her window, illuminating a resolve beginning to form within her. She needed to find clarity. She had to confront the next step of their journey. The uncertainty of tomorrow beckoned her to question, could this marriage of passion and practicality hold when faced with the realities of their individual pursuits? Or would that very fusion expose the fissures in their foundation? With the sun rising to greet a new day, Emily prepared to face the class and whatever self-discovery awaited her therein. But beneath the surface of her excitement lay uncharted waters, and the moment of truth hung heavily in the air, awaiting its revelation. Emily stood at the threshold of the barn, her heart racing as she watched the first few children trickle in, bright-eyed and full of curiosity. The sun bathed the rustic wooden walls in golden light, complementing her blend of anxiety and anticipation. This was her moment, the culmination of weeks spent planning, sacrificing sleep, and reshaping her identity into that of a teacher. As she greeted the eager young faces, a nervous energy coursed through her. She had envisioned this day countless times, yet the reality felt overwhelming. What if she let them down? What if her ideas fell flat? But then again, what if this ignited something transformative for them and for her? "Welcome, everyone," she called, her voice echoing softly in the spacious barn. The children clustered around her, eyes widening as she introduced them to the vast world of sustainable farming topics she was passionate about but had never taught before. Each child's gaze bore the weight of expectation, and in that instant, Emily found herself at a crossroads of personal development. She launched into the curriculum, her mind flickering between excitement and doubt. Could she really convey complex ideas in a way that resonated? The moments of silence and glazed look sent shivers through her. Each question they asked felt like a litmus test of her capabilities, nudging her to confront her insecurities. Yet, with every response, a small thrill of confidence emerged. She was not just sharing knowledge, she was shaping a narrative that interconnected their lives with the land. After a brief lesson about soil health, they stepped outside for the hands-on portion of the class. She watched as small hands plunged into the earth, digging with an eagerness that mirrored her own buried emotions. There, amid the joyous chaos, Emily realized the depth of her own longing not just to teach, but to nurture, to unlock potential in others just as she had begun to uncover her own. But in the background, Mark stood observing, his face a complex reflection of pride and wariness. His presence was both comforting and constraining, a reminder of how deeply intertwined their paths had become. What comforted her also anchored her, pulling her back to the ranch while she sought to soar beyond its borders. She noticed his hesitant clapping, instantly questioning if he believed she could sustain this momentum. The class continued, each success amplifying Emily's passion while igniting an ember of fear. A realization hit her, every effort she exerted in this community of young minds mirrored her yearning for broader horizons and the significant aspirations she wrestled with internally. Could this teaching experience pave the way for a more significant shift in her life? By midday, the atmosphere shifted. After they harvested vegetables from the garden, Emily encouraged the children to reflect on their work. She suddenly felt a weight lifting, clarity emerging from the fog of uncertainty that had enveloped her for so long. In their laughter and innocence, she caught a glimpse of her aspirations. They echoed the very heart of her more profound desires. As the class came to an end, Emily surveyed the scene. Children bounded around her, laughing, their faces smeared with dirt and enthusiasm, embodying everything she hoped for. Yet, Mark's eyes captured her attention again, revealing a flash of concern that pierced through her exuberance. He approached, the uncertainty etched into his brow prompting her to ask, "What's wrong?" He hesitated, grappling with his words. I hope this isn't overwhelming for you." As he emerged from his shell of practicality, doubts swirled within Emily. Did he see her as capable, or was he questioning her motivations? She felt an urge to let loose her own hesitation. "I want this, Mark. Every part of it. But I also need to explore what lies beyond." His expression hardened for a moment, wrestling with her uncharted ambitions. An invisible barrier grew between them, reflecting the disconnect in their visions. She needed to confront this reality. Could she truly channel her dreams without losing the importance of their partnership? As she stood there, the tension coiling rapidly around them, Emily's heart thudded in her chest. With clarity emerging from the chaos of her thoughts, she knew that the time had come to face the underlying currents of their relationship and redefine what this partnership meant for both of them. "Mark, I need to talk about us," she finally said, feeling the precipice of profound change looming ahead. Emily took a deep breath, bracing for the unknown might unfold. Would their common ground prove sturdy enough to support the different paths they were on? Or would each step into the future reveal even deeper fissures that could not be repaired? As they stepped toward an uncertain conversation, the stakes rose higher than ever before, teetering on the brink of revelation. Emily's words hung in the air, heavy with apprehension and unspoken truths. Mark's expression darkened, and his eyes strayed away from hers, a telltale sign that he was retreating into himself, retreating from her. "Okay," he said slowly, a guarded tone flavoring his words. "What do you want to talk about?" It wasn't just a conversation, it felt like stepping onto a tightrope, balancing between her aspirations and the delicate nature of their relationship. She took a cautious breath and shifted her weight, grounding herself in the certainty of her feelings but grappling with the fear of his response. "I don't want to hide anymore," she began, her voice steadier now. "You know how much these kids mean to me. This place has opened a part of me I thought was lost." Every word felt like an act of boldness. She was challenging the very essence of their connection. "I'm discovering who I am here, Mark. I need space to grow." His gaze sharpened and he crossed his arms, visibly bracing against her revelation. "I understand that, but what happens to us while you're discovering yourself?" Are you saying I'm not enough? No. The word shot out from her lips with an edge of desperation. You are enough. But I need to find more than just enough for myself. I can't keep living in this shadowed version of me. Mark's silence roiled in the air between them, thick with tension. She could see the struggle on his face, a mix of hurt and confusion. It cut deeper than she anticipated. Reaching for freedom sometimes meant pushing others away. Then, as if steeling himself against an incoming storm, he replied, "So what's the plan? Teach? Stay in this small town forever?" The sharpness of his tone struck a nerve. How could he reduce her dreams to mere plans? It's not just about teaching, Mark. It's about exploring potential beyond these walls, she countered, each syllable rising like a small rebellion in her chest. I want to make an impact. I want to see what's out there. The look in Mark's eyes warped from concern to irritation. And what about us? What if I can't come along? It feels like you're ready to leave this behind. The betrayal in his voice acted like a knife, piercing through the atmosphere, igniting her determination but also testing her resolve. For an instant, a wave of guilt swept over her, but she pushed it away fiercely. I'm not leaving you behind. I want us to grow together, but I can't do that if I'm stifled by fear or anchored to expectations. Mark took a step back, the physical distance emphasizing the emotional rift emerging between them. She watched as he raked his fingers through his hair, wrestling with the disappointment etched into his features. Was this truly the end of their partnership? Maybe you need to be alone to figure this out, he said quietly, his voice losing its earlier edge. Maybe we need to see what life looks like without trying to hold one another back. Please don't say that. Her heart raced, sensing that his words were profound, a warning of impending separation. We owe it to ourselves to find our paths, even if they lead us away for a while. The response they each sought lingered on the tip of their tongues, but a myriad of unsaid thoughts lingered like a twilight fog, threatening clarity for them both. As they stood suspended in uncharted emotional territory, the ground beneath them crumbled into uncertainty, piercing their connection painfully. Emily had to confront the reality of her choices, choosing not only her career but also deciding what she truly wanted out of both her professional and personal lives. As the conversation fizzled, a breath hung between them, fragile but charged. Could she take a step alone without losing touch with him or losing sight of herself? And yet in that spark of clarity, ghosting under the thick tension was another sound, a voice echoing in her mind, urging her to explore her inner strength. She caught a sliver of potential unseen but felt it urge her on. What might it look like if she stepped into that power? Emily's heart pulsed with both fear and exhilarating possibility, knowing that from this moment, each decision ahead held the power to shape her fate. The moment arrived, delicately balanced on the edge of revelation and consequence. Would she leap into the unknown, or would fear tether her to the familiar? There was only one way forward. Taking a deep breath, she glanced at Mark, unwavering as her voice broke the silence again. I'm ready to explore what makes me whole, but it has to start here, between us. As the weight of her words settled, she knew the upcoming choice didn't just redefine their relationship, it might illuminate the very depths of her soul. Would stepping into this unknown lead to freedom or fracture their bond irreparably? The morning sun filtered through Emily's window, casting a warm hue across her bedroom as she sat on the edge of her bed, wrestling with the enormity of her recent decisions. The conversation with Mark looped incessantly in her mind, each replay twisted with burgeoning anxiety and a fervent desire for clarity. Taking a deep breath, she let the light illuminate her uncertainties. This was her moment, a crossroads where she could no longer just float through life on autopilot. She craved that sense of agency, of purpose, and now more than ever, it felt within reach. But where to begin? She rose and walked to her small desk cluttered with papers from her teaching. Every document represented hours spent planning lessons, fostering connections with her students, and moments of self-doubt buried beneath her diligence. Yet today, those papers felt heavy, shackled with the weight of her fear. Reclaiming her dreams meant not just reaffirming her identity as a teacher but redefining what that meant for her future. She grabbed a notebook, its pages pristine and waiting, and allowed the ink to flow freely. What did she want? The question gnawed at her, demanding an answer even as the words escaped her. Each scribbled line connected her vision's educational programs that emphasized creativity, community workshops that empowered others, perhaps even pursuing additional qualifications. But as the plan took shape, a shadow loomed. Was this ambition just a fill-in for the void lurking in her personal life? Her relationship with Mark plagued her thoughts like a persistent whisper. He was undeniably a pillar of support, but did his presence reinforce her, or was it a shield against facing her true self? The thought was disquieting, teasing her with the realization that she was capable of so much more, yet tethered by the confines of their connection. She gripped the pen tighter, feeling the betrayal of her longing and the clarity it brought. In her mind's eye, she saw the children she dedicated herself to each day. Their faces lit up with discovery, their enthusiasm radiating hope and potential. It had ignited something within her. If she was to cultivate that same fire in her own life, it required more than rehashing what she'd already known. It meant uprooting herself from the safety of familiarity and diving into the unknown, each plunge both thrilling and terrifying. With renewed determination, she jotted down a list of potential opportunities, research on local mentorship programs, and contact information for community colleges that offered courses aligned with her newfound resolve. As she penned each item, a flicker of excitement ignited within her. Her phone buzzed on the desk, jarring her from this moment of introspection. She picked it up hesitantly, half expecting a message from Mark, torn between anticipation and dread. Instead, it was a notification of an upcoming regional educators conference, a gathering that encapsulated innovation and professional development. The perfect opportunity, she thought, her heart racing at the idea. This could be the catalyst for her growth. Immersing herself among like-minded individuals could open new doors, both professionally and personally. But what if Mark was right about their relationship? Could she truly prioritize her aspirations without losing him? As the weight of these thoughts circled relentlessly in her mind, she felt her pulse quicken. It was in this moment of tempestuous indecision that she conjured the image of herself at the conference, standing tall and confident, sharing her ideas and insights, unrestrained and free to forge her path. But as the picture crystallized in her mind, doubts crept back. In what if stepping forward meant stepping away from Mark? Could they thrive individually while still nurturing their bond, or would distance become a chasm too great to bridge? With her resolve wavering, Emily closed her eyes and took a moment to breathe deeply. Change was a universal force, and finding balance amidst that chaos required a deliberate step into the unknown. Embracing both her ambitions and the complexities of love demanded honesty, first with herself, then perhaps with Mark. As she gathered her notes, preparing to take this pivotal leap, she felt a rush of empowerment mixed with uncertainty. What else would she discover about herself along this journey? If she could confront these challenges head-on, the possibilities were endless. But she still needed to confront the unresolved tension with Mark, the looming conversation awaiting her return. She felt the ground beneath her shift again, exhilarating and unsettling all at once. It was time to put her intentions into action, but would Mark welcome her ambitions, or would they ignite further conflict? The answers awaited her, lurking just beyond the horizon of her next decision. With a sense of urgency propelling her forward, Emily made her way to the conference center, each step accompanied by a mixture of thrill and apprehension. The sleek, modern building loomed ahead, promising new opportunities and the unexpected. Yet as she entered, a knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach, reminding her of the conversations left unresolved at home with Mark. The vibrant atmosphere distracted her momentarily, educators animatedly discussing ideas, ambition radiating from every corner. Emily's heart raced as she visualized herself stepping into this thriving community, sharing her dreams and aspirations. But with each passing moment, the reality of her fractured relationship loomed larger in her mind. Navigating the bustling hallways of the conference, she carefully scanned the schedule, her fingers brushing over sessions titled Innovative Teaching Techniques and Fostering Creativity in the Classroom. Each topic resonated deeply, yet they also carried undertones of her unresolved feelings for Mark. Could she immerse herself fully in this world while feeling tethered to someone who might not understand her path? She opted for a workshop on cultivating creativity, hoping it would provide concrete strategies she could implement back in the classroom. As she settled into her seat, the instructor, an enthusiastic veteran educator, sparked a dialogue that rapidly transformed the room. Ideas flowed, thoughts challenged, and Emily found herself participating with vim, her confidence bolstered by the collective energy. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to consider not just what she was passionate about but also the kind of educator she wanted to become. The session ignited a deep well of ideas: community art projects, interactive curricula, mentorship roles, each concept a piece of her burgeoning vision. During a break, she found herself in conversation with another participant, a fellow teacher named Laura. They sparked an immediate camaraderie, excitedly brainstorming educational approaches and challenges. Their shared experiences illuminated Emily's own journey, forcing her to articulate thoughts she'd kept bottled inside. "It's all about nurturing those young minds," Laura said, her eyes sparkling with hope. "But in doing that, we can't forget to nurture ourselves too." The remark struck a chord deep within Emily. Her uncertainty about her relationship with Mark echoed through her thoughts. While he supported her, was his grounding presence smothering her potential? She recalled the hesitant conversations they'd had, pushing the notion of growth aside to maintain the status quo. The day evolved, each session more enlightening than the last, yet as she continued to learn, a confrontation with herself loomed. Daring to break the silence she had wrapped herself in, she began expressing her aspirations to Laura. "I want to create a dynamic environment that fosters not just learning but a passion for life itself." Each word grew bolder, deeper, as if peeling away layers she'd previously draped for protection. "You can absolutely do that, Emily. But don't forget to involve yourself in that journey, too. It's okay to want more, be more," Laura encouraged, understanding the complexities that accompanied ambition. These words resonated, stimulating an internal reckoning. If nurturing her growth meant altering her relationship with Mark, she needed to confront that reality sooner rather than later. After parting ways with Laura, Emily walked among the other attendees, a sense of direction aligning her thoughts. The budding ideas she had captured throughout the day were not just inflated fantasies, they were guiding lights showing her new paths to explore. Yet, in the brilliance of this revelation, the impending conversation with Mark loomed large as ever. As evening approached, she steeled herself for the upcoming confrontation. What would she say? How would he react? Could they emerge stronger, or would it fracture the bond they had built? Just as those thoughts settled, a piercing realization occurred: her journey was her own, and she had to prioritize her voice in the tangled mix of love and self-discovery. The moment of confrontation was imminent, but it was laced with uncertainty. What would be the cost of a future where she truly embraced her potential? With a newfound resolve, Emily prepared to meet Mark, her heart pounding with uncertainty and anticipation. Change was not merely on the horizon, it was electric, and the challenge lay in articulating her needs in a way that would not only embrace her own growth but potentially reshape their foundations. As she braced for the looming discussion, she couldn't shake the feeling that a pivotal moment awaited her, one that could alter the trajectory of her life and the people she cared for. What awaited them both in that vulnerable space of honesty? Emily stood before the mirror in their small apartment, her reflection a blend of resolve and fear. The weight of the conversations about her future pressed heavily on her shoulders. She adjusted her blouse, and for a moment, fixated on the woman staring back at her. Who was she? A teacher caught between the wreckage of her ambitions and the affection she held for Mark. The familiar comfort of their life together flickered in her mind, a safety net woven from shared history but increasingly fraying at the edges. As she walked toward the living room, her heart began to quicken. Thoughts of how Mark might receive her words swirled like leaves in an autumn breeze. Was he prepared for the storm of emotions she was about to unleash? Could he separate the desire for their robust home life from her yearning for something more expansive, more daring? When she reached the bright yellow couch, the pit in her stomach twisted tighter, echoing her conflicted emotions. Emily, hey. You're home. Mark's voice broke through her reverie, pulling her back to the present. He was engrossed in a book, his glasses perched on the bridge of his nose, an image of tranquility. The sight was both comforting and suffocating. She had always drawn strength from his calmness, but today it felt like a barrier between her two realities. Hey, Mark, she managed to reply, her voice steadier than she felt. Can we talk? He set the book aside, a furrowed brow signaling his concern. Sure. What's up? As she settled onto the couch opposite him, time seemed to stretch. She wasn't merely about to discuss her day. Instead, she was preparing to tiptoe over the precipice of their relationship, uncertain whether they would soar or plunge together. Taking a deep breath, the words burst forth. I've been thinking a lot about my teaching, my dreams. I want to create an environment that's not just about academics but about igniting passion and creativity. She hoped her enthusiasm would illuminate her intentions rather than cast shadows on their shared life. I thought you were happy with how things are. He replied, frowning slightly as he leaned forward, his brows knitting. The lack of instant support hit her harder than she expected. It's not that I'm not happy, she rushed to clarify, but I feel stuck. The more I learn, the more I realize I want to break through old habits, to experiment with new methods. But I'm starting to question whether I can do that while maintaining the life we've built. I feel like I'm stuck at a crossroads, Mark. His silence felt heavy, as if the air between them thickened with unspoken words. Are you saying you want to change our lives? Mark asked carefully. He seemed genuinely startled, grappling with the implications of her desires. I can't ignore that I want more, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't want to be less because of you. But I also don't want to fight against you. That's a lot to take in, Mark replied, running a hand through his hair, a gesture of his own tension. What if going after your dreams means changing everything we've established? Emily winced at his words, feeling the sharp edges of truth. She understood all too well she had come to the realization that her growth might challenge the foundation they were built on, possibly even dismantling it altogether. I don't know, Mark. But I can't let fear anchor me down. I need to explore what I'm capable of, who I could be. The conviction in her voice burned bright, though it felt tenuous. Mark's expression softened as he absorbed her words, his eyes searching hers for understanding. I want you to be happy, Emily. But I also want you to be you without the pressure of our expectations. What do you really want from all of this? From us? This query was the crux of all her thoughts. Could she truly redefine her place in their shared narrative without tearing them apart? As ideas spun like rising smoke in her mind, she realized this conversation wasn't about demanding change, it was about assembling a new partnership built on shared growth instead of sacrifice. Yet, even that path posed perilous uncertainties. Let us figure it out together, she proposed, her heart both racing and hesitating. The moment hung between them, both fragile and vital, as they began to map out an uncharted territory where aspirations could converge without losing sight of affection. Outside, night was deepening, shadows stretching across the walls. Each hesitant breath marked the beginning of a journey neither of them had anticipated, and the air buzzed with the promise of what could unfold. But as they surveyed the horizon of their collaborative future, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that significant risks lay ahead. What would she discover about herself, and could they truly bridge the gaps that had grown between them? The days following their pivotal conversation unfolded like a fragile lacework, each thread representing arduous attempts to understand and nurture both personal ambitions and shared dreams. Emily poured herself into reimagining her teaching methods while Mark, in turn, dedicated himself to fostering a supportive environment within the ranch to help her succeed. As the weeks passed, she noticed a transformation in herself, a gradual shedding of past insecurities began as she tackled her vision with tenacity. With each lesson, her confidence crystallized. The children responded with vigor, their excitement fueling her drive. Each class comprised not just education but an embryonic dream unfolding, one where she intertwined her academic passion with real-world applications. The breakthrough came one sunny afternoon when a local newspaper reporter attended a session, captivated by the vibrant classroom interactions. That evening, Emily saw the fruits of their labor reflected in the headlines: local educators ignite a passion for farming in youth. The publicity validated her efforts, and within days, her phone rang with inquiries from community members inspired to collaborate on future projects. Mark watched her flourish and felt pride swelling in his chest, yet it was laced with anxiety. As Emily embraced her amplified role in the community, subtle tensions emerged, revealing cracks in their once unbreakable connection. Conversations became tinged with unspoken frustrations. They no longer danced around topics of the future, instead, they steered clear, avoiding what felt like a widening chasm between ambitions. One evening, as twilight painted their living room golden, Emily realized it was time to confront the unease tugging at them both. "We need to talk about how things have changed. It feels like we're growing parallel instead of together," she admitted, her heart steadying with resolve. Mark looked up from his video game, the controller falling softly against his lap. "I've been feeling it too," he said, a glimmer of vulnerability entering his usually sturdy voice. "It's like your passion is pulling you in a direction I can't follow, and I fear I'm going to lose you." "No one is losing anyone." Emily shifted closer, taking his hand. "We have to find a way to grow not just as individuals but as partners. I want this to complement our lives, not take away from them." "How?" The sincerity in his eyes pierced through their tension. "I've created the ranch with stability in mind, and now everything feels so unanchored. Maybe it's time to redefine what stability means for us," she proposed, excitement flaring within her. The magnetic pull of their shared vision needed reigniting, only this time marked by compromise rather than solitary focus. Their dialogue deepened as they explored their feelings surrounding shared responsibilities, expectations, and the constant interplay between personal dreams and marital realities. They delineated spaces for ambition and relaxation, filled with spontaneity instead of routine rigidity. With renewed intention, Emily proposed weekends focused on collaborative projects at the ranch while still dedicating specific time to her independent endeavors, ensuring that neither felt neglectful in their commitments to one another. "Let us create a community event that mixes farming techniques with student engagement," Emily pressed, enthusiasm abundant. "We can showcase our collective strengths and bring people together. I want this to be ours." Mark nodded slowly, a spark igniting in his eyes. "I want to be part of what you're building. Perhaps we could also offer workshops for families about the impact of sustainable practices." Weeks thereafter morphed into a blossoming celebration of both their aspirations. Families flocked to the ranch for hybrid classes that paired Emily's passion for education with Mark's practical knowledge. The success of their collaborative endeavors was palpable. Together they cultivated a vibrant atmosphere that nurtured their community and deepened their bond. As spring edged into summer, Emily stood at the threshold of her classroom, once again filled with eager faces. This time, confidence surged through her veins, grounding her in her identity as both a teacher and a partner. She reveled in the joy of teaching young minds while coaxing growth from her own heart, free from the suffocation of doubt. The challenges had transformed into stepping stones of understanding. Her relationship with Mark evolved as they learned to embrace the nuances of their partnership. They uplifted each other's aspirations instead of letting them become adversaries. Emily felt the beautiful intertwining of two unique identities, each respected and cherished, creating a more robust union. With a sense of fulfillment coursing through her, Emily reflected on her journey. The engagement with the mysterious stranger revealed profound layers of her spirit, and every moment of fear and doubt carved a pathway to this newfound clarity. In a final moment of courage and gratitude, Emily turned to her students, seeing the spark of possibility reflected in their eyes, the same excitement she felt every day. She had achieved not just personal growth but also a life that harmonized her unique ambitions with the love she cherished. And in the gentle embrace of the sun setting behind the ranch, she knew she had conquered her fears, transforming uncertainty into a tapestry rich with achievement, love, and the promise of tomorrow. This is the moment for all of you to support our journey further. You need to subscribe now and don't miss out on more exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. You must comment your reactions and theories about this incredible journey, let us hear them. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.